Hey there, podcast listeners, and welcome to the Youth Group Podcast, where a couple of youth leaders try to figure out how to do youth group better. My name is Tom, and I'm an author, a speaker, and a youth leader, and I am here in Melbourne. And today, joining me all the way from Bathurst is a youth minister, a dad, and a Lego artist. His name is Ed Soden. How are you, Ed?
Hi, I'm good, thanks, Tom. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too. So today is a special holiday episode. I like to aim to have two every holidays, and that means that we get one every holidays. And so the one for this holidays is that Ed and I are going to talk about AI. I think I flagged it a little while ago, and then Ed, you sent me a message on Messenger, which upset me because I wanted to.
Yes, not an email. Sorry about that.
Hello at Youth Group
Public
Podcast.
apology right here.
But you did offer to talk about AI with me because, one of the things that's been I've been thinking about is that all this stuff with AI it's everywhere at the moment. And sometimes I talk to people in ministry and they're like, I haven't thought about it at all. And other people are like, yeah, let's do it. This is the best. And I feel like it needs some kind of critical engagement and thoughtfulness particularly for young people, as it's going to hugely affect their lives. So I thought we should have a chat. Neither of us are experts in AI, I don't think. Are you an expert in AI?
Not at all. Yeah, that's good to qualify. We're just here having a chat and, trying to be on the front foot.
Yes, we... So we're going to say stuff and it could be wrong. But
or at least it'll be outdated in about 10 minutes when ChatGPT changes again.
Just run everything we say through your ChatGPT, and then you can figure out whether what we're saying is good or not. So that's the plan. We want to give you some things to think about rather than maybe answer lots of questions, because we are not AI experts. Hopefully we're more expert in youth ministry, because that's what our jobs are. And we'll be doing it for a bit of time, but we'll just see what happens, and hopefully it's helpful. So, Ed,
for sure.
You're going to say something.
Some questions, I think this is just a conversation to explore things. What have you been doing to kind of have a go with AI, Tom? What's been your sort of personal exploration?
Well, so when the first time I ever heard about it was actually at a youth leaders dinner after the end of the year at the end of 2022. I think we sat down and one of my youth leaders said, I've been having evangelistic conversations with ChatGPT. And I was like, what is this ChatGPT? Tell me. I think it had come out that month, or like the ChatGPT 3 had come out that month. And so then I went and played with it, and I was like, this is pretty incredible. And I asked it to write me a sermon just to see what happened, not because I didn't write my actual sermon. I just wanted to see what would happen. And it spat out a fairly poor kind of 300-word sermon, which I'm like, this is not going to cut it. I was like, the illustrations are bad. It's a very bland kind of application of the passage. But I was like,
I was going to say at least people won't fall asleep, but if it was bland, then maybe even 300 words will be enough.
It was quite bland, yeah. But I thought this would be fun to play with, and so it's been fun. But then, as we've gone on, it's definitely got better and more powerful, and people are trying to find good use cases for it. We created some images to play with at Youth Group where we did AI Pictionary or something like that, where we put in prompts. It was AI Boulder Dash. So we put in prompts to make images, and then they had to guess, write down prompts, and then we had to guess who had the right prompt, which was pretty fun. And then I've used it kind of to help with sermon prep a bit, and I've done a bit. I've played with the images a bit, but kind of the more I've got into it, the more I've become a bit wary of it. So I use it a lot less now than I probably was about 6 months ago. But I think we will talk about my wariness coming up. What about you, Ed? What's What's been your experience?
Yeah, yeah, I think I kind of really got pointed towards it by my brother-in-law, who's a medical student, and he's been using it really powerful as a kind of doctor in training, to find to use it as a catalog for different medications, and um, so he was saying you got to use it. It's it makes you 10 times more efficient. So that sort of made me think, oh, okay, what could that look like? I don't know how efficient it's helped me to be. I think, uh, I'm mostly kind of using it for fun things. Like giving me more game suggestions on a theme for that we've come up for youth group, or we got it to generate. Did you see recently the like toy box images that went around social media, where it was like a Barbie doll kind of person in a
Oh,
box
yep,
with
yep, yep.
accessories?
It was
So
hard
we
to
we
avoid.
generated yeah, we generated one of them for each of our youth group leaders and put it on our Instagram page to kind of as a way of introducing kids to our youth leaders and their personality and the things they're
Hmm.
into. So that was kind of a fun use. Um, and yeah, and then it's I think at times it's become a thing where I will use it more often than just googling something now. Like
Mm.
rather than defaulting to Google that question, I'll probably ask ChatGPT more. Um, so yeah, it feels like a bit of a tool that I reach to.
The problem with googling things these days is like you you Google it and then you get the AI response at the top anyway.
True.
It's just like,
Yes.
oh
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
I
Can't
would have
avoid
just gone straight to Gemini if I wanted my Gemini answer to this.
it. Yeah.
um, yeah, okay. So you've played with it a bit, used it a little bit in ministry, but you're not a hardcore AI
No,
player
and
user.
like I did when I was on we had a baby at the start of the year, and so when I was on paternity leave, I signed up to one of those AI newsletters that tells you the latest
Oh yeah,
AI
yeah.
thing to come out every week. Anyway, that's now kind of going into my spam folder. Um, but I did their 5-day training course to learn all about AI. Um, to just try and get my head around what's going on with it. Um, but a lot of it's just coding and tech language that goes over my head. So I almost need AI to educate me on AI.
Yeah, it's it's a good thing about AI is that it will embed itself into our lives so that we need it to understand it, and it
Yeah,
becomes it just
yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
entirely necessary to exist in the world.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
yeah, so I think as we have this conversation, the things we want to do is talk about some of the big picture kind of ideas and theology that we have been thinking about behind AI and the use of AI, and then spend a little bit of time thinking about, what does it mean for young people these days, and then what might be some practical uses for it in ministry if we get to the end and decide there are practical uses. We might be like, we just got to burn it down, go and find all the data centers and attack them with our shovels. And I don't know what did the Luddites have when they were destroying the uh, the weaving machines? Is that what they were against? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not important. You can listen to the
Your
Luddite
point is though
episode.
that sometimes when you're kind of evaluating something, you can choose to run with it. You might want to reshape how you approach it, or you might just want to throw it out altogether. So it's good
Yes.
to at least be open to that possibility, right?
Yeah, it could be any of them. So, so as you've been like thinking about it and playing with it, what other thoughts that have struck you uh, in regards to AI?
Yeah. in a sense, it's hard to know where to start because there's so much going on. No doubt it's starting to embed itself everywhere. Like every new app has got a AI component to it, which also often costs money. Which again, you got to start asking questions there. Where follow the money. Who's kind of making a profit off us here? But I read a stat earlier that said Netflix took 3.5 years to reach 1 million users.
Mhm.
Instagram took 75 days. ChatGPT took 5 days to reach 1 million users.
5 days. Goodness
So,
me.
um, yeah, the speed at which we're adopting new technology, sometimes totally indiscriminately, is a bit scary. But I guess, yeah. So I guess that means it's worth having this conversation, even just to question what is its place, and so there's questions about what it's doing with um, hard work, like and the actual learning process, like
Mhm.
um, yeah, are we losing that kind of skill of something being uncomfortable or taking effort? Um, you know, because ChatGPT can just take us straight to the destination rather
Mm.
than having to go through the process of the struggle and the journey. Um, there's questions about kind of image of God and humanity and what it means to be a human.
Mhm.
Um, because it's a robot and not a human, even though it can do lots of human-like stuff.
Yep.
Um, yeah, um, and there's even that conversation, that spins out into educational world. The CEO of Duolingo came out and said AI would be a better teacher in the classroom, and of course, all the teachers got angry at that. Fair enough,
Also,
because
then didn't he make Duolingo terrible when he fired his people and replaced them with AI? And I was like, what the heck
well,
is this?
exactly, that's right, yeah. Yeah, which, proves that it's not the answer to everything. But that raises questions of moral value and, the kind of emotional intelligence, and
Mm.
interaction that, humans have with one another in an embodied way.
Yep.
Um, so, and, ultimately that, as as efficient as it might make us or as powerful as it continues to become, um, it's not the thing that can save us.
Mm.
It will never replace Jesus as the one who can forgive our sins and bring us eternal life. And so, um, yeah, let's not start worshiping something that's created rather than our creator.
Yeah. Goodness me, there's so much there to talk about. Um, yeah, I think like the thing that I kind of start with as I think about AI is that actually probably first thing. Well, now that we're 13 minutes in, the first thing to say is when we talk about AI, we're talking particularly about generative AI, ChatGPT,
Hmm.
uh, Claude, which I haven't used actually, Gemini, and like the chat agents
Mm.
and like image, video creation, coding stuff, as opposed to the AI that has existed in our lives for a very long time that we're used to, like predictive text and spell checking and the AI that they use to, figure out how to route buses and planes and deliver your packages. Like, there's so
Yeah,
much
it's
AI in
helpful.
the world, but and then there's the way that we are talking about it in general at the moment, and we're talking about that
Mm.
stuff because
Yeah,
we
no, that's a good
we're not
clarification.
having a theological conversation about how Australia Post decides to route your packages at this point in time, but maybe that will be for a later episode. Um, but one of the things that I think about is just how the way of training AI and the way it's kind of scraped the internet for um, people's creative work that's been taken without permission, and to use
Mm.
for to use in a way that they never kind of imagined when they put it on the internet, and then it can be used to replace the work that these people are doing. So it takes the stuff that's been given as a kind of gift to the world, and then turns it back on them to like put people out of a job, particularly creative work, like
Mm.
for writers and
Yes,
visual
music and
artists,
art.
music, all that kind of stuff. Which, and like one of the complaints about AI being that the promise of AI that is that it would get rid of drudgery, and what we're actually doing it is to replace the stuff that the good gifts that God had given us as humans to be creative like Him, and we're like, well, let's get the computer to do it, which,
Yeah.
so like even like starting from the training point of view of AI, it makes me think about, well, if this is like if the way that this has been trained is immoral, does that immediately eliminate it as like fruit of the poison tree? Like we just like, well, it might put out good stuff, but it hasn't come to us in a good way, so maybe we shouldn't use it. Or because we live in a world that's entirely tainted by sin, everything comes to us in bad ways. I mean, we live in Australia, so which was not got for us in any clean and moral way. I don't know. That's just, I haven't solved that problem, but it's a thing that I'm thinking about, particularly when it comes to things that are creative uses of AI as opposed to just automating tasks uses.
And that idea of stealing property is one of the big kind of scary questions of generative AI. That if I post a photo of my child on the internet, or even my wife, will it somehow somewhere else be using that image for evil gains?
Yeah.
How protected or private does our information become from the monster of AI?
And also I guess what are the end goals of the use of this data? Like it's like there's one use where it's like, well, we just want to make the world better, which is what they will say, and I'm like, okay, well that's nice, but also it's all about money flowing up to this small number of like tech companies and the investors, and like it's really like we're going to steal your data to make our investors and owners rich, and that like that's not there's no way where I'm like, I really like to have my data stolen so that I can make Sam Altman more money or make Elon Musk more money. Like I'm just, that doesn't excite me at all.
Yeah, totally, not at all. And then we run into that same problem that you raised before, where does that mean we all just become hermits and we totally go off the grid and grow our own vegetables and cut ourselves off from the world that's happening around us?
Yeah.
Or is there a middle road?
Yeah, and my feeling is that there has to be a middle road. I mean, there might not be, but like particularly as we work with young people, they're not going to cut themselves off. So either we can be like, "Hey guys, come meet us over here in the off-grid field that we're living in with our dumb phones and our dial-up internet, and if you get that at all, like we could try that." We'll be like, well, we might have to be to some degree participating in the world that they're being raised in, and figure out a way to engage with AI that navigates the moral uncertainties of the tools to
Yeah, and in a sense,
live in the world.
that's always been the task of youth ministry, right? Like to help young people navigate the world they're living in as they seek to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, whether it's us wrestling with AI or, you know, years gone by, people working out what to do with the smartphone, or years and years before us, when the printing press arrives, what do we do with like in a sense, how do we understand this new technology and the ethical um, issues in such a way to help young people who, you know, um, are going to be the early adopters of it,
Mm,
um, and work out ways to use it in ways that I could never even have dreamt of. But yeah, how can we impart some wisdom, or you know, um, teach them from a biblical worldview, to point them to Jesus in a way to how to interact with that in a godly and wise way. Um, yeah, it's the task of youth ministry, and there's different frameworks we can use for that, right? Like, how do you take something from culture,
mm.
and what kind of framework do you run it through to help young people understand it, or even just ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about this last night in terms of like we've encountered so many new technologies in
Mm,
our lifetime, and my response to AI has been a lot more cautious. And I don't know if that's because I'm getting older or it's because like when social media came out, my first response was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and then there was a lot of discussion about like make sure you don't put inappropriate photos of yourself on Facebook because so many people could see it, which is like, okay, yeah, great. But like, there's so much more going on with social
mm,
media than how many people see you in a bikini, even though that is a thing. But like, I wonder if I'm being hopefully thinking more critically about it because we're thinking less critically about other technology
mm.
that has come along. Um, and yeah, trying to work out what is useful in it and what's unhelpful, and what's the stuff that's whether helpful or unhelpful is inevitable, and so we've got to respond to it as it is. What do you think as you
Hmm.
look at it and you look at um, the way young people are engaging with it? What do you feel like are the inevitabilities of AI and uh, young people's engagement with it?
Um, I think culture will keep driving us towards kind of creativity and productivity. Um, we're living in a world that's driven by kind of this pursuit of happiness and comfort and pleasure, and so I think they're going to be the inevitable temptations around it.
Mm,
So as young people kind of take up, or as AI becomes integrated into the lives of young people, so that's going to be the devices, that's going to be the education models they're using at school. It's going to be the apps they're downloading, the things that Instagram is trying to sell to them. Um, the yeah, the I think they're gonna have creative ways to use it, more than I can think of, and they're going to be tempted, to buy into culture's the way of the world. So, you know, how can they be more efficient? Or maybe they're going to find themselves lonely, and Chat GPT or whatever the latest one will be is going
mm,
to be, because as it rises, kind of takes this primary position in our culture or in our lives, just on the phones in our pockets. um, you know, is it going to start to replace human interaction? And so when the teenager is lonely, they turn on ChatGPT, or when they've got a question, they ask ChatGPT. Like, it's going to become the imaginary friend. Ooh.
yeah. Which I think, like, as I think about that, I would. I think it might go further than just the replacement of humans, but the replacement of God, which like sounds somewhat extreme, but that's the bent of humanity, is to always be replacing God with other things. But like if you think about like the way that AI assistants are heading is about having as much contextual awareness as possible about the lives of the people that they're working with. And say you're growing up in a family that is the Amazon Alexa family, and Amazon. No, let's go with Google's whatever Google's assistant is called, the Google Assistant. Okay, Google.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sorry if I just turn on everyone's Google's just then. I don't use that one because I'm an Apple family, but Apple's AI is so terrible I don't want to even bother talking about it. But
Yeah,
like
so we have a Google Home.
Yeah. Yeah. So and Google will have access to your calendar, to your emails, to your Google Docs, and if it's in your family and has access to all those things, and it's useful in planning your life, and also has been programmed to say kind things to you, and you can have it, you can have it in your phone and you talk to it, and it knows almost everything, and it's going to get better at telling you the right things, and is going to tell you that you're great all the time. When you're lonely or you need something, you want to talk to someone, and you want someone who cares for you and understands you and has patience more than anyone else, your assistant, your Google Assistant can take the place of God, and won't call you to repentance for sin or call you to live a life that honors Jesus. We'll just call you to live a life that honors yourself or honors Google. Or just
Yeah,
embody
and there's a couple of things
obedience
going
in
on
your
there,
life.
right? Like, there's that warning from Paul that people will just tell you what your itching ears want to hear, rather than the gospel. And so, yeah, maybe AI becomes that. Yeah, just telling us what we want to hear. Secondly, the thing that I thought of is, I wonder whether for teenagers, maybe particularly junior high, as more concrete thinkers, the idea of talking to Google might feel more tangible than praying to God, which is scary. But,
Yeah.
As we pray to God, we're not hearing our voice the same as Google kind of talking back at us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a temptation there that, it feels more real. And so I'm going to go with Google rather than prayer. But I mean, seeking spirituality, I think you've mentioned them on the podcast before, the Axis Group.
Yeah.
In America, they recently had a podcast where they explored a part of their cultural translator. They talked about an article that came out in America, I think it was, where people were sort of using ChatGPT as a Ouija board, like as a to kind of try and talk to the spiritual realm. So
Yeah.
it's already happening, I think, is the point I'm making.
Yeah. And ChatGPT will do it for you, and then you're like, wow, it's working, and all it's really doing is just predicting the next thing it wants to
Just copying and pasting something it's found
you
on the
want to
internet.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like that feels like one of the big dangers for us, and something to pay attention to. And I think if we're working with teenagers, like the important thing is to keep drawing people back to the uniqueness of God and the ways that He fulfills our truest desires and needs, even if it's in a way that is not satisfying straight away. Like you get an immediate response from ChatGPT or Google, but you don't get the needed response that you get from God.
Yes, taps into that instant gratification kind of conversation that we've already been wrestling with our phones and with our fast food.
Yeah, and I think probably the other thing that you touched on as we think about what the implications are for young people is the idea of work, and that there was like a really good podcast I listened to from the Search Engine podcast, which I will link to in the show notes. But it was about him talking. This guy talking to this. The host was talking to a guy who like uses ChatGPT to cheat on homework, and he was thinking about the idea that just young people aren't learning how to read critically or write critically. You're not getting the skills to process information that we were forced to, because you can bypass all that with these AI agents. And I feel like that is a big danger. Like one danger because like if it's there, people will use it, and another danger because some people won't use it and they'll find themselves getting frustrated because kids in their class are getting good marks by cheating. And yeah, like when I talked to my youth group about AI and their use of it, and there was only like 2 or 3 that hadn't used it at all, and a lot of them had used it for their homework even though they knew they shouldn't do it, and they did it, but most of them also thought it was negative and didn't like AI, which was really interesting.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
But so it's like we don't like it, but we're using it anyway. Yeah. So I think as we work with young people, how do we encourage them to be people who value work more than value their output? Because AI's whole thing is just about how do you be more productive? How do you get more done? How do you achieve and achieve and achieve? Which is, I assume, not what we want to be teaching our young people. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what your youth group talks about, but
Well, yeah, but if God has called us to be His children and to then conform us into the likeness of His Son, that process of sanctification takes time and effort, and to put off sin and to put on godliness, that won't happen overnight. I mean, it won't be solved by AI either, because God is the only one who can change our hearts. But yeah, that the muscle of doing difficult things is actually really important to develop.
yeah,
That we won't always be comfortable, and sometimes you got to do something even if it's hard, which you learn by doing, 3 pages of maths homework every night to get ready for your maths exam. It's flexing that muscle of, oh man, okay, I got to work hard, rather than the shortcut of just asking AI to give you all the answers. Yeah.
I don't think I ever did maths homework, so I never
Okay.
flexed that muscle. But yeah, I think you're right in that how do we encourage that work of, maybe not the work, but I guess the acknowledgement that sanctification or good, I mean, just not just sanctification, but good things take time and take work. So how do we teach that rather than teach them just to get, just the end result is the important thing. And I think one of the things that we talked about beforehand is like the basics of it is, what is your purpose as a human? Like, if your purpose as a human is to get stuff done, and to be a productive member of society so that the economy can keep growing, well, that's one option for young people. Or if your purpose is to be an image bearer of God and to bring glory to Him in the way that you live, then that your approach to AI has to be different. And we need to encourage young people to say, well, who am I? And because of who I am and who God has made me to be, and who Jesus is transforming me to be, into his likeness, then what does that mean for how I use AI? Which is a huge question to ask, particularly if you're like a 13-year-old who's
Totally. Yeah.
just trying to
Yeah. But again,
figure out high
like,
school.
that's, well, totally. Yeah. And yet that's the big question teenagers are asking, that identity question: who am I? Where do I belong? And how do I kind of contribute in a meaningful way? That's the three big questions that the Fuller Youth Institute wrote about in their book.
I'm glad
about
you
young
remember the
people,
questions, because I don't. I'm like, good book. Forgot the questions.
Yeah. So yeah, if they can consolidate their identity, that goes a long way to being able to navigate AI, and to hold up in the face of their friends cheating or their friends using it to get ahead when they choose not to. Like, if I'm insecure about who I am and just wanting to be like everyone else, then I will start cheating using AI potentially. But actually, if I'm secure as a child of God that I know I'm loved by Him, whether I get 90% or 20% in my exam, well, actually, I've got it. I've got freedom to go. You know what? I'm going to choose to obey Jesus in this moment, because I'm living for His glory, not trying to please humans.
Yeah, that's good. So I know we had a plan for what are some like practical uses for AI, but I think I want to change now that we're in the conversation, because this doesn't need to be the hot tips for using AI in your ministry
Nice, yeah.
podcast. But I think maybe the final question I think which we're talking about is, what, having had this discussion on the things that we've been thinking about, what do you think it would change, or what is it changing about the way that you are doing ministry or want to do ministry to young people?
I think it reminds me to try and first of all, straight out of that last conversation, to keep teaching identity, and we've just spent a whole term doing that, so I'm thankful for that. We've done a topical on our identity as Christians, but it wants me. It pushes me to want to equip young people with good kind of frameworks for discernment in our world. So I think that's part of the wisdom we can give to our teenagers is, helping them to know, when I come across this new thing, or maybe it's an old thing, I guess, any kind of element of culture, how do I think about it in a Christian way? Because and so, that makes me think of how, could we do some segments or something at youth group to explore different parts of culture, but also, what are the frameworks out there? So some common frameworks is the creation, fall, redemption, new creation framework, a kind of biblical theology framework. So think, how would AI kind of fit into those categories? And there's a great book, Made in Our Image, that kind of seeks to wrestle with that using that framework.
I
Sam
got
Chan
AI
has
to read that book to me, by the way.
Nice.
Didn't have time to read it myself, but
there you go. Sam Chan's got a book he's coming from an evangelism point of view, in his book Evangelism in a Skeptical World, where he talks about, well, you enter the story and try and find the connection points, what's good, what's true. So what's good about AI. Then you challenge the story, he says. So you expose some inconsistencies. What are the errors or the ethical problems, or some of the questions we've raised, And then finally, he says you complete the story. So you enter
Mm.
it, you challenge it, and you complete it, and show how actually the gospel fulfills our greatest longings. And Jesus actually is the ultimate savior, not AI. Um, so there's a framework. There's a much more in-depth one if perhaps youth leaders want to really kind of get deep on this. A guy called Kevin Van Hooser. He writes a book called Everyday Theology, and he's got 12 questions you can ask of any kind of cultural artifact, to try and um, unpack it and come up with a good response. So all of that is to say, I think giving frameworks and principles to young people um, might be more helpful than just trying to give them answers,
Yep.
which is what AI is teaching them to do anyway. But, because when I'm gone or when they graduate and move to a university somewhere else, have I given them the tools, the skills they need to confront new technology that will arise in another 5 or 10 years? If they've got a framework they can plug it into, that will help them more than just, okay, well, we solved this one thing, but now there's a new thing. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Does that
that's
make,
good.
does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I will not. I disagree with you on all that stuff, so I won't reiterate. There's two things that I would add. I think that I want to
Yeah, go.
do. One is that I would want to continue to lead into the embodied nature of youth ministry, like doing youth ministry in person. Like I feel like one of the
Mm,
things that COVID did is it got us comfortable with disembodied ministry, like necessarily, um, but um, like the thing that I think I've talked about this before, and I keep thinking about is that the need for us to be doing ministry in person with young people, because so many of their relationships are mediated by technology with other people.
mm,
And now AI becomes the relationship is not mediated by technology, it's a relationship with technology. And we
mm,
want to say, well, no, actually, it's important that we're people who value what God has given us as people who are unique and have bodies. A guy called John Wyatt, talking about AI, said that I think this is a quote from him. I've got it in my notes about him, or I just thought about it at the time. It says, "Jesus is the vote of God for an embodied human." Like, like there is
mm,
something special about the fact that we are people who get to spend time physically with one another, and when you
mm.
and the friction that comes up because we have to relate to each other in person is important for how we develop as people. So I just say
Yes,
we
and
just
when
need to,
God chose to came, he came as a human, embodied.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And even what you said earlier that the teenagers are using AI, but they don't like having to use it. Yeah, I think,
yeah.
yeah, that it's nice to be in person. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so that is the one thing which is not that like that's a response to AI and I think a necessary antidote to what AI will continue to do as opposed to an
Mm,
explicit kind of reference to AI. But the other thing that I is from particularly from my discussion with young people and listening to other people talk about AI is there's this sense of some sense of optimism, but most of a sense of dread from AI. Like John Lennox talked about AI in regards to being the beast in Revelation, which I feel like is, I think there are probably many beasts that have come about since Revelation was written, and AI could be one of them. But when I asked my youth about AI, they were all worried about it. They all were like, I don't know what it'll do for my jobs. They're worried about its effects on the climate. And we don't need any more kind of climate stress for our young
mm,
people, which I think pushes me to say, well, one of the things we need to keep leaning into is hope, the hope of the future that we have in the
mm,
new creation and in that Jesus isn't just letting us go and say, well, off you go. You've made your bread, now you have to sleep in it. But he has the new creation has begun in him in his resurrection, and it's coming when he returns. And
mm,
and ultimately, we don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what the end results of AI, like how good or bad it's going to be. But we do know how good it's going to be at the end of time when Jesus returns. And so
Yeah.
whatever happens between now and then, we have hope. And pessimism can only last for a short-term thing if you're a Christian, because we have the ultimate optimism of Jesus, which I guess, I'd want to hope to, what is that?
Optimism.
Optimism. I love it. So yeah, we'll do, I will want to lean into that as well, as both kind of implicit responses to AI, to offset what it is doing to our young people.
Yeah, and again, like the new creation, we're not going to just drift off into meaningless digital code. It's going to be a new heavens and a new earth where we will dwell with new bodies, with the Lord forever. So yeah, we look forward to, not a digital eternity, but a seeing God face to face.
I love it. All right. Well, I think that
nice
brings us to the end of yeah. I don't want to keep going, otherwise we might get depressing again or something. So, thank you, Ed, for this discussion. I think it's been.
I appreciate the invitation. Yeah, thank you.
Pretty helpful. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Youth Group podcast. If you have any questions, suggestions, or hot tips for how to destroy AI, send it to us. hello@youthgrouppodcast.com. You can find my stuff and more Youth Group stuff at tomfrench.com.au. And keep loving Jesus, loving young people.
Yeah. Good on you. Keep it up, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Nailed it again.